usually the best thing to get your first sales rep doing is meeting bookings, getting them doing some outbound prospecting, taking some inbound leads, qualifying them, and then working directly with you as the founder on how do you pitch, how do you demo, how do you negotiate and close. Don't give them the whole cycle all at once, because you're just not going to be able to do it. And then you're going to say, oh, sales reps don't work. The reason a lot of businesses get stuck is because it completely relies on the founder to do all of the sales. So you'll typically see this in an agency or some kind of a consultancy or service business, is that, you can find people to do the work. You can find project managers and admin and finance people, but sales is usually the last thing that a founder offloads. And a lot of them never get there. And that's why businesses get stuck at sort of the 1 million and below mark, and sometimes even above that, is because they can't go out and sell that business tomorrow because they haven't created a repeatable, predictable sales process that you can hire for and plug people in. So that's what I'm going to talk about today in terms of how you can progressively do this, because it's important to follow a process and do it in stages. You can't just tomorrow go out and hire a sales team or hire a sales leader. The first shift that you need to make is really a mindset one. Because a lot of founders will tell themselves this story that it's impossible to find somebody to sell my business. Only I know my business. Nobody can sell it like I do. Nobody can tell my story. Nobody knows the product, the service, et cetera, et cetera. These are just stories we make up that keep us stuck exactly where we are. If an agency or a consultancy could not grow by creating a predictable sales process and not relying on the founder, then why do the largest agencies in the world exist? The Saatchis and Saatchis, the Ogilvy and Mathers, the Bain Consultings. These service businesses have figured out how to scale through sales, and they, in a lot of cases, the founders aren't even alive anymore. So this is just a story that we make up because we know it's hard. And so I think the first thing to do is to really just get yourself out of the mindset that it's impossible. The fact is, it is impossible. You just need to figure out how to do it. My first business was an agency, and we had hired, when I say we, my business partner and I had hired salespeople over the years, and sometimes they brought in business, but it was very hit or miss. We were never really able to figure it out and figure out how to scale that. Whereas today, my software business has a sales team and a sales leader, and myself and my co-founder bring in basically no sales ourselves. So here's how to do it, right? First of all, you got to realize that this is going to be an investment. It is not something you just hire somebody tomorrow, throw them out into the wild, and expect that they're going to bring in business. This is a process, and you need to give it the time and the investment that it requires. You need to hire 2 sales reps at the beginning. I realize this might be hard for small businesses to afford. Keep in mind, though, that sales reps often aren't too expensive if they're not bringing in, the sales. So the base salaries are going to be pretty low. You got to pay them enough so that they're able to, afford to live. But they're really going to be incentivized to make more of their money off of the upside, off of the OTE, the on-target earnings, when they're bringing sales in the door. The reason why you hire 2 is because this is a bit of an experiment at first. And if you hire one person and they don't work out, you really never know, was it the person or was it the fact that maybe I don't have product market fit? Maybe I'm going after a crappy market where there's little demand. You don't really know these things. And if you hire 2 and one works out and one doesn't, then you kind of know it was a performance issue. Whereas if you hire 2, you're really never going to know which part of the system wasn't working. You need to invest in training and onboarding. So this is something that SaaS companies really get right for the most part, is that they understand that a salesperson doesn't come in your door and are successful the next month. There's usually typically a month-long ramp. It could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, sometimes even 12-month ramp periods, depending on the size of deals that you're bringing in. Typically, an enterprise deal with a longer sales process is going to have a longer ramp-up period. But just remember, if you're a service business, you're going to need to give that salesperson time to ramp up, and you're going to need to give them training. Now, what does that actually look like? So if you're the founder and you're bringing the sales in the door today, you probably have some kind of a process. Now, you may not know what that process is. That might exist in your head, but you really need to download it. You need to document what you're doing, how you're doing it, with videos, writing it down, putting it somewhere where somebody can basically look at that and go, okay, if I follow those steps, I can probably have very similar outcomes as the founder. Then you need to train the sales rep on that process. And that involves looking at what they're doing on a weekly basis, having them record their calls and watching those calls to give them coaching each week on one-on-ones, to train them on the specific skills, the specific processes that you need them to follow in order to get those results. One of the biggest reasons why sales reps are not successful is because they don't really understand the product or service that they're selling. And when you think about why do buyers talk to salespeople? It's to help them with their buying process, to ask them questions. Can you do this? Can you do that? What is the outcome the buyer wants? And the sales rep is there to guide them along the way to either say, yes, we can help you, or no, we can't. And typically in higher priced products or services like consultancies and agencies, you're going to need to consult throughout the process. So that means you're going to need to create and offer value throughout the sales process that signals to the buyer, okay, these guys know what they're doing. I'm in good hands. I should trust this person to tell me the truth and to tell me if they can help me or not. And typically you're going to do that, and this is why founders are usually so good at it, is by actually giving them great advice and great takeaways and insights before they've even hired you, so that you know that like, hey, I've already made money kind of now throughout just talking to this person. This is going to help if I actually hire the business to perform whatever service it happens to be. Now, training sales reps on how to do this, especially if they don't have a lot of business experience, can be tough. So think about HubSpot, the software company. They've done this for a very long time, is when new employees start, they put them for a month or two in support. And actually, even before that, what they do is they get them to build a business with HubSpot using the platform. So that means they need to create a website, landing pages, email drips, the whole thing. They need to use the tool itself and launch a business. And that is their training, so that then when they hop on the support queue and then when sales reps start taking calls with prospects, they're actually able to answer real questions that come from experience because they've actually used the tool. So they understand what it does. They can guide them along the way. So think about how you could apply that in a service business or some other type of business, which is, how often when you hire a sales rep or a seller, do you actually bring them into projects, sit on kickoff calls, make them part of the delivery? And again, this is an investment of time, but when you think about it, this is going to get them so close to the business, so close to the value that your business delivers, that over time, they're going to be able to share some insight, share some things that they've learned just being part of this process with buyers before they're even in the door, before they're even a client. And this is one of the ways that you can arm and equip and train your salespeople on how to deliver value and how to have that consultative sales process so that they're creating value throughout the sales process. When you bring in a new seller, you don't necessarily want them to do the full cycle at first. So usually the best thing to get your first sales rep doing is meeting bookings, getting them doing some outbound prospecting, taking some inbound leads, qualifying them, and then working directly with you as the founder on how do you pitch, how do you demo, how do you negotiate and close. Don't give them the whole cycle all at once because you're just not going to be able to do it. And then you're going to say, oh, sales reps don't work. We tried and they didn't bring anything in the door. No, get them to fill your calendar as the founder with meetings and then shadow you so that they can see how you talk about the product or service, how you close, how you negotiate, what objections come up. And then when they're ready, you can give them the full cycle because they already know how to bring people in the door. Now you need them to know how to close. And it's kind of like, there's sort of two parts of sales. One is going out and fishing and the other one is cooking the fish. Those are two different skills. Openers and closers. So you got to really make sure that they know how to open before they close. Now, if you have two sales reps who are starting to hit quotas and are starting to hit numbers, this is where you are going to want to bring in a sales leader. And a lot of people get the order of these steps wrong, right? So they bring in a sales leader and they expect them to be able to figure out the whole system. But typically VPs of sales, directors of sales aren't actually good at creating the thing. They're good at reverse engineering what already works, right? So sales leaders don't go out and create demand in the market. They don't figure out fulfillment. They don't figure out positioning and product market fit and all that kind of stuff that a lot of founders really get this wrong because they expect that they're going to do that on their own. No, You do that as the founder, and then you build in a repeatable system with a small amount of reps. What a sales leader does is they take what you've already done and they scale it up. And that's typically how you're going to see it become more successful. When you know the pricing is right, the positioning's right, you know who your ideal customer profile is, the sales rep can then work on hiring, training, coaching, and you can offload all of those tasks to your sales leader, have your sales leader own a number. Now, when they come in, you're typically going to want them to actually own a small quota, even 50% quota, because they're going to need to figure out this process by actually doing it themselves. And so have them take meetings, have them close some deals themselves, splitting their time appropriately so that once they've got it and once it's trainable and repeatable, they can eventually remove that personal quota and take on the entire team quota, because their job now is to grow sales for the organization. And so you might be hearing this and going, Kyle, that sounds like a lot of work and a lot of investment, and it is. And that's the reason why small businesses stay stuck, because they don't want to put in the money, the time, the effort to grow the business. But here's the deal. If you ever want to go sell your business and you as the founder, the only person who knows how to bring new business in the door, you're not going to be able to, which means you're going to be chained to your business forever. So you're going to be feeling pain one way or the other. Front load the pain. Feel the pain now. Invest in the time and energy in getting something that is repeatable and sustainable, so that in the future you can go on long vacations and trust that sales are still going to come in the door. Maybe you've operationalized every other part of the business. Now you need to figure out and crack the new business. So I hope that was helpful. If you enjoyed this video, would love you to leave a comment and hit that subscribe button to get more videos like this. And bye for now.